All righty. Welcome back. We are ACI Course 7, Class 8 already, February 13, 2025. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. Wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow your wish into a longing, and that longing into an intention. And then with that intention state of mind, turn your mind back to your precious holy being. we know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. Yay. So thank you everyone for sending your completed papers. It makes me very happy. So last week, we learned the first half or so of the secondary vows. And we learned that some of those secondary vows have exceptions to the rule. Certain circumstances where even if you do the behavior that we've vowed to avoid, where it doesn't break the vow, still makes negative karma that will come back to us as something unpleasant, but doesn't break the vow. And one of those vows that has exceptions, called nyemes, were the one about avoiding failing to reply to a question. And they gave us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different circumstances in which if you don't answer a question, you haven't broken the vow. And the first one was if you're asleep or still groggy from being asleep. If we're sick, if we are engaged in a conversation with somebody else and somebody asks the question, if you think it might upset the teacher to answer the question, now what circumstance that would be, you'd have to imagine probably the teacher is there with you. And maybe it means we should turn and offer the question to the teacher. I'm not sure. if answering the question would disturb somebody else at a Dharma talk. If you are listening to a Dharma talk and somebody asks you a question, you don't have to answer. And when you're teaching a Dharma and somebody asks a question, but it would interrupt the flow of the teaching, so you don't answer, you don't break this vow. You know, probably you're going to come back and answer it later, but just in the moment. Then you had a quiz question that said, what kind of person would you have to be to break one of the rules of body and speech out of compassion in a very extraordinary circumstance? Because we have a vow to not avoid doing that. But we have to have a certain number of amazing qualities in order to not avoid killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, etc., in a circumstance where it would need to be done. So if you recall, in order to be one who could do those negative deeds and not break the vow, we would have to be a very high level bodhisattva who's been being a bodhisattva for a long time, eons of lifetimes, who would then, of course, have great compassion, who also has that thing called skillful means. And they said specifically it means being able to influence that being's mind in a higher way by doing the negative deed that you did, right? For the case of killing, it would mean that you could help direct that mind to a higher place. And lastly, we would have to be a being who could see that there was no other alternative. So we don't need to be omniscient to see that there was no other alternative. But it is part of that quality of mind one experiences as a high-level meditator, right? To know things that as an ordinary human we don't know, and to know that what you know is valid versus to think we know something, right, based on some intuition. That's a little bit different here. And then lastly, on the quiz, it asked, what were those 5 wrong livelihoods as taught in the String of Precious Jewels, and what was the general kind of wrong livelihood? And so the vow is, I will avoid having wrong livelihood. And then the clarification is these particular 5 of flattery, making a living by flattery. And it's like, wait, that doesn't make sense in a outer world life. It makes sense if the way you make your living is by gathering donations and support from sponsors, right? So flattery means saying nice things to get something. So that would apply to our worldly life. If you, right, flatter somebody to get what you want, to get the raise, to get the job, whatever. And it's like, well, wait, just being nice to somebody, isn't that allowed? That's different than intentionally flattering something to get what we want. Do you see? Then hinting means, you know, alluding to something that you want or need, like implying something without coming straight out and saying, I need enough money to feed 50 monks on Saturday. How can you help out? Right? That's different than going, well, we're going to have this big luncheon and, right? Baiting means giving something small so that they'll give you something bigger. So apparently in the old days, maybe still modern days, when you give a gift, the person who received that gift is somehow obligated to give you a gift that's a little bit more valuable than that. And then, of course, you give back and you give back and you give back. And we heard that story about King Udriana, was it? And the Wheel of Life. And Bimbisara, Udriana and Bimbisara, and finally one gave something, the other one didn't have anything more valuable than that. So he was stuck, So like that, calling upon that situation to get what we want. And then again, in a culture where that doesn't happen, we might break or damage this vow by negotiating with somebody. If I give you this little bit, I can expect from you this bigger thing. So it might still happen in a culture that doesn't actually work like that. And then forcing means hassling somebody until you get what you want. And the fifth one was pretending, putting on this pretense in order to get things. And it's like, wait a minute, in our modern world, we're supposed to do that. It's like we're supposed to be confident and show that we know what we're doing, even when maybe we don't. And so we would need to look at that somewhat and get it straight in our minds. How that is helpful or not helpful to the other person. Then Master Bodhibhadra, he said, look, any livelihood that harms others is what a bodhisattva would avoid doing. And again, like technically, just about every livelihood harms others in some way because we're samsaric. But ones that directly harm others are more obvious. We would not take a job as a butcher. And if we are in a job as a butcher, as we are deciding when it's time to take our bodhisattva vows, right, we would be figuring out how we could make a living in some other way than being a butcher. Right? So they pointed out trading in alcohol, weapons, silk, animals, and farming. Although it does still say etc. So I will avoid those 5 wrong livelihoods. Then someone asked the question, like the one about I will avoid failing to accept an invitation. What about those, big parties and people are just going to be blah, blah, blah the whole time. And they're going to pass around food that has meat in it and alcohol in it. Do I break this vow by saying, no, I'm not going to go because it's just going to be a foolish waste of time. And the things they pass around, I can't eat without breaking my vows. Do I break the vow by not going? And again, remember that a bodhisattva has declared themselves as a happiness-making factory, and that any opportunity that we have to go try to make a little happiness is what we do, whether we want to go or not, whether it's going to be fun or not. And yet, in that question, there are all these different details to consider. Did somebody specifically ask you to the party? Or was it this blanket email, everybody's expected to come? Right? You could look at that and say, nobody actually specifically asked me. So I wouldn't break my vow by saying no. But then check your motivation. Am I saying no because I just don't want to go? In which case, change your mind and go. Or are you quite sure that while you're there, you're going to break 16 other vows? And so because they didn't specifically ask you, you could say, well, I'm going to keep this vow to help me protect all those other vows. And in the future, I'll consider maybe going when I'm stronger in my vows. Right? Technically, you are the judge of whether you kept or damaged your vows. It's not anybody else. And there really isn't this black and white line, right? There is for each of us, but we're the judge. And remember the notsa and prelude, right? Those two states of mind, my own self-esteem and the impact my behavior would have on others. Positive impact, negative impact. And with those two states of mind, we look at the situation and then make our decision as to what keeping my vow will look like and what breaking the vow would look like. So then in this question, they also said at the party, food's going to be passed around. And if we're vegetarian and we don't eat meat, and somebody offers me meat, am I obligated to take it? What if it has alcohol in it and I've got my 5 vows? Am I obligated to take it? So again, if it's laying out on the table, of course you're not, right? You don't have to take any of it. If somebody walks up with a plate of food and says, here, this is for you, you, Bodhisattva, take the plate. This vow doesn't say you have to eat the plate of food, does it? Accept what's offered. You can turn around and offer it to someone else, or you can turn around and set it down on the table. Right? You're not obligated to partake of what they've offered you. Well, what if it's the server person, and they're going around to everybody and they stop at you? How are they specifically offering to you? Are you just, one of the millions that they're offering to? You decide. You could say, I'm just a blank face to them, so I don't break my vow by saying thank you, but no thank you. Or you decide, wow, this is an opportunity where I can make a connection with this person. And yes, I'll take something off their plate and put it on my napkin. Again, we're not obligated to eat it. Right? Go feed it to the dog, take it home, offer it to the homeless person, right? Do you see? So again, it's like Bodhisattva is figuring out how they can raise the happiness level of anyone they're interacting with. And that's what these vows are about, showing us different situations in which ordinarily we would go, nah, I don't want to do that. And now it's like, let me see how I could do that in this new heartfelt compassion connection making way. And that attitude will help you keep the vow, because that's the attitude. All the vows are trying to help us grow. Okay. All right, so class 8, we are covering the secondary vows still having to do with the 6 perfections. Wait, I have to interrupt myself. Geshe-la was asked, what about those situations where you took your bodhisattva vows in this life, and then you're the little kid in your next life, and you don't know anything about bodhisattva vows, apparently. Are you breaking your vows left and right, as the little kid? And, when we hear the stories about those holy beings, that when they're little kids, they seem to automatically have this amazing pure behavior. And so I like to think, I hope that as a bodhisattva who died with vows, I'd come back as one of those kids that does naturally take care of people and want to do kindnesses. Rinpoche said, yes, that child still has their bodhisattva vows from the previous life, but until in that life they take them, they receive them in a ceremony, they can't break them. So he didn't go into the explanation why. So we can take it on authority by Larampa Geshe telling us that, don't worry, if you come back as a human, your bodhisattva vows will still be influencing you, and very likely you will meet the circumstances of learning about vows and wanting vows and being able to receive vows sooner than later. And you won't break your vows while you're waiting for that to happen, right? So it's like, okay, good, thank you. Okay, so now let's go. Vows number 17 to 20 are behaviors to avoid that would harm our perfection of patience. So number 17, the words say, I will avoid yelling back in answer to being yelled at, etc. So because of the etc., it means there are other similar things that we do in automatic reaction that block our ability to practice the perfection of patience. So when they flesh out those other situations, there are 3 more besides yelling back in response to being yelled at. And they come to be called the 4 points of the practice of virtue, meaning to avoid these kinds of reactions is doing the virtue. So to not yell back when somebody yells at us is the first of these. So I will avoid yelling back when someone yells at me. That's how the vow is kept. Somebody yells at us. What's our immediate reaction? mostly, yell right back. Like it happens so fast, and then me, right? It's going back and forth. So to not do that, to refuse to do that, so hard. But the seed planted by not yelling back when you would have, it's huge, right? It's like you could say your numpar shapar has a little earthquake, right? Because all the seeds inside there were like anticipating you to yell back and you didn't. I mean, they're not doing that, but you get the idea. It's so dramatic to not yell back when someone yells at us. And again, the crux of our bodhisattva behavior is to stop perpetuating the cycle. Because of our understanding of karma and emptiness, we understand that yelling back makes more being yelled at, which will make more yelling, which makes more being yelled at, not necessarily by the same person. So we're making this determination to be the one that stops the cycle. Then the second one, when someone gets angry with us and puts us down, the automatic respond in kind is to put them down back, right? In some other way. My vow card says, the first one says, responding with the same to someone who yells at us. The second one, responding with the same to someone's anger towards us. But it's not just angry to angry. I mean, that is true. It is talking about that. But when somebody's angry with us, usually what they're doing is saying, you did this, you did this, you did that. And they're pointing out our faults. And then our response is, I did not, you do blah, blah, blah. Right? And we point out their faults as if it's going to help. So this vow is saying, I refuse to participate in that because I want to stop ever being put down out of someone's anger in the future. Not responding once, maybe it's the last time, and you won't ever have it happen again. But maybe it happens again, and you still don't respond. And then it happens again, and you still don't respond. Every time we don't respond, right, we are reducing the number of times it's going to happen to us again. And when we're doing it with a certain amount of wisdom, attempted wisdom, it will chip away at those seeds very quickly. And who was it that said, I think it was Master Shantideva, he says, pretty soon you'll be go looking for people to get angry with you, to see how you're doing. You know, and you will have weeded them out of your life. And you won't even be able to find somebody to get angry with you. Can you imagine? The third one. Responding the same with physical violence. Responding the same to physical violence someone has done towards us. So somebody hits us, batters us, right, is physically harmful to us. Again, the human tendency is to do it right back to them, right? They hit me, I hit you. In fact, they're coming at me to hit me. I'm going to hit them before they can hit me, right? Is the usual attitude. It does not mean that you're supposed to stand there and take it. Right? You don't break the vow by running away. In fact, it helps you keep the vow, right? To avoid getting hit, to avoid letting the other hit you is a bodhisattva behavior. Okay. Then the fourth one is responding the same to someone's criticism of us. So the anger one was the anger and putting us down. This one they don't have to have the angry part. They're just criticizing. And again, our human reaction to being criticized is to criticize back. And this vow says, don't do that. Right? Technically, it means anytime somebody's pointing out your faults, our tendency is go, yeah, but you are blah, blah, blah. Right? So Bodhisattva will go, well, that's interesting. I agree with you or I don't agree with you. That doesn't matter. It's the not responding in kind that is the essence of this vow. That if we do respond in kind, we have damaged our practice of the perfection of patience. A perfection of patience means this growing ability to be in unpleasant situations and not react unkindly. So these are 4 very common human unpleasant circumstances that we can learn to not respond unkindly in. And that grows our perfection of patience. So it's not just about not getting angry in the perfection of patience. It's about this ability to be in unpleasant circumstances and use it as an opportunity to grow your wisdom and virtue. All right, that was number 17. Got those 4 parts. But you can see that they're broad enough that they cover a lot of different situations. Number 18. I will avoid ignoring those who are angry with us by failing to explain ourselves in an appropriate way out of desire to hurt them, out of pride, or out of laziness. So we would need to be aware that someone's angry with us. And then it doesn't really matter whether we did what they're mad about or didn't do what they're mad about. To keep this vow means you will go and try to clean up the situation. Maybe it means an apology. Maybe it just means an explanation of your intention or an explanation of your perception of the situation. We're trying to clear the air, motivated by our concern that their anger is festering. Right? So we're not there to clear our name. We do have a vow about stopping rumors about ourselves. This one, though, is more about our concern that their anger is going to go on. And so we want to try to clear things up with them. Now, we understand that whether their anger goes on or not, we can't really know. And that whether their anger goes on or not is our seeds ripening. So really, the way you would stop someone's anger going on or not would be stopping your own festering anger. And that would not necessarily have to mean going to them and sorting it out, right? We would do something else to stop our own festering anger. And when we do, we would not end up being in a situation where someone we know is angry with us and their anger could be festering. And so we want to help them stop it. Now, there's exceptions to this. Like you can think of them right off the top of your head. Like, what if you bring it up again and it's just going to make them madder? Do I have to do it? Do I break the vow if I don't do it? No. What if you were that bodhisattva that saw that they needed to learn a lesson? What if the situation is that you hear someone giving a wrong spiritual teaching, or someone actually giving a really evil spiritual teaching, and you decide you're going to, publicly reveal that what they just taught was so harmful, and they're going to get mad at you for doing that. And a bodhisattva is out to decrease anger in the world, not add to it. But it's like, yeah, but what they're teaching is so harmful to others and harmful to themselves that even if it's going to make them really, really upset, yeah, I'm willing to be the one that points out the error and debate with them if necessary until I can see that they've got it right, or at least understand that they are wrong and stop teaching wrongly. That could go very badly. And so even in this exception to the vow, we would need to be quite sure that we would be able to open that person's mind to the error that they're making, and to be willing to do it in public. Like, it was a long, pretty specific story that Geshe Michael pointed out. The point is that there are certain circumstances where we would we might need to do something knowing the person's going to get angry, and then doing it in such a way that we could come back and help them not let their anger fester, would be how we would apply this vow. Then another exception is if the other person, this one who's angry with us, is really just evil and nothing that we could ever say to them would pacify them. Like, nothing we could say could get their anger to cool off. You don't break this vow by not going. Like, how we would really know that, I'm not so sure. Another is if you think the person would just get more angry if you brought it up again. And again, to the best of our own understanding. Or if after trying to set it right with them, they just would stay angry anyway, and somehow you know that, then you don't have to go try. If someone would be really embarrassed or uncomfortable with your apology, right? You protect them from that embarrassment by not going. And then if the person just would not be helped by your explanation or your apology, you don't break the vow by not trying to clear it up. Geshe-la summarized it all, which is just not wanting to go try to clear it up with someone is not an exception. Right? That needs to be some specific good reason that would benefit them for not going. Okay. To not go clear the air, he said, is usually motivated by pride or jealousy or our own anger and hatred, or maybe even just that laziness thing. You know, you intend to do it, but you just never get around to it. Those kinds of mental afflictions prevent us from trying to clear it up with them. All right. Number 19. I will avoid not accepting an apology. Didn't we have not accepting an apology already? Root vow number 3. That root vow number 3, though, had the component of our simmering anger. Gee, we were just talking about that in somebody else. So we have this simmering anger, and someone comes to us with their apology, and we don't accept it, right? It's like, that would make that would break the bodhisattva vow, but that would also make the circumstance of what we were just talking about. You know, a person that they're angry with you, and you just won't be able to influence their mind. Gee, where did that come from? So this vow is that failing to accept an apology, their apology, motivated by our pride or our disrespect of them, or out of laziness, right? And it's like, how to not accept apology out of laziness, I don't quite understand. But it's this state of mind of just, I don't feel like it. I don't want to. Yeah. And so I won't make the effort to understand their apology. I won't listen to it. Okay. All right. There are a couple of exceptions to failing to accept an apology, if you can imagine. One of them, if you need to teach them a lesson, but you have to be, right, the high-level bodhisattva, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If the apology is improper, like if it's clearly to you insincere and disrespectful, you don't have to sit there and listen to it. You don't have to accept it. And, you know, an apology comes across verbally, and ones that we might be able to recognize as not sincere is, you know, like, I'm sorry if you think I hurt your feelings, but, right, that means the person has not admitted that they hurt your feelings. And it could also come across as, I realize I hurt your feelings, I'm sorry, but this is why I did it, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Which means they're justifying it, which means the apology isn't really an apology. And again, like, we're thinking about the other person's apology, but think about our own apologies when we apologize. Are we sincerely owning what the person's response was? Like, apologies are slippery things. Okay. Number 20. I will avoid letting thoughts of anger go on. There are apparently 3 factors involved when our anger goes on. One of them is that we don't consider it harmful to be angry. Like, if when you have a hammer and you're hammering in a nail, you are very careful to not hammer your thumb when you're hammering the nail, because you know it will hurt. So you don't do it, until something fouls up and you do it by accident. When we get angry and we let the anger go on, it's like pounding your thumb with a hammer and wondering why your thumb hurts. It must mean that we think there's some benefit from hitting our thumb, even though it's unpleasant, or else we wouldn't keep doing it. So when we have anger, somebody does something, we get angry, we replay the video again and again and again, feeling the anger again, justifying the anger again. And the doing of that means that we don't think that feeling of anger is the same as pounding our thumb with the hammer. It's as stupid. And it means that we don't think that it's harmful. Of course, we're trying to justify our reaction. And so we replay it. And so this belief of whether anger is a harmful thing or not, just to feel it, let alone to respond to it. Is it a negative thing? Is it a negative seed that will harm us later? And our very culture, society says, no, you mustn't stuff your anger. We are not saying stuff your anger. In fact, it's healthy to feel your anger and let it out in a safe place, pound those pillows and get that anger out, feel it, use it. And these teachings say, yes, every minute you call it up and let it go on, you are replanting seeds for more of it. Even pounding the pillow out of anger is replanting seeds for more anger. These teachings do not, however, say stuff your anger. Don't feel it. Don't call that sensation anger. Call it something else. They don't say that. They do say feel it, recognize it, understand how it makes you want to respond, and do something else. Do the opposite, they say. And if you can't do that, be like a bump on a log. It doesn't make the anger go away. That feeling is still there. But every instant we're struggling against acting from it, we are burning it off, making less of it in the future. So every time we feel that thing, we're calling anger and don't respond. And in fact, do something to cool it off. we are lessening the power of that sensation as anger in the future, right? That sensation is not anger, and it's not anger in and of itself. That sensation that tells you angry seeds are ripening is a tool, a clue that we can use to learn to stop the automatic reaction. Is it unpleasant? It seems to be, until we actually do come to reinterpret those sensations, which really is a movement of energy that shows us we need to be on high alert for something. And the high alert can be, what's my response going to be? To burn this off and not replant anger. You may need to come up with a one-liner that you always use. The boss is yelling, about something you didn't do, blaming you. And can you come up with a true one-liner? I'm sorry you're upset. True. You don't have to defend yourself for anything. I'm sorry you're upset. Is there some way to help? All right, and not say anything more. Not address the issue, not answer the questions, just, I'm sorry you're upset. What can I do to help? And every time we do that, when we want to yell back, criticize back, point out how the boss is wrong, every time we don't do those, we are stopping the cycle of anger begetting anger. And that's what these vows are talking about. To stop the cycle, stop perpetuating the cycle. So one, to not consider anger as wrong is a factor that allows us to continue to feel the anger and want to act from it. Second factor is we don't make any effort to counteract it. If we don't think there's anything wrong with feeling anger, of course we're not going to counteract it. Third one, as you let it flow on, you actually have a little bit of some perverted enjoyment in it. Like for whatever reason, either the sensation of anger helps us feel empowered, or it justifies why I hate my boss, or right, some reason, letting it go on, not making any effort to counteract it because we're enjoying it a little bit. So those three factors are something to investigate in our own selves. You can't really investigate it when you're angry, but you can think back to past angry situations, angry making situations, and see, to what extent were those going on in my mind, and see if we can sort them out. Another common thing in our society now is this idea of righteous anger. Somebody was doing wrong to that person, and in order to protect the one who's being wronged, it's right for me to get angry and be angry and treat the perpetrator badly. And the seeds are being planted such that somebody will have righteous anger towards us someday. And it's still anger begetting anger. So there will be situations where something dangerous is happening, and we may need to step in with force. And usually the force that we use to step in is that force of anger. And that's what gives us the, oomph to go and address the situation. This is saying, generate the power of your wisdom and compassion and step in with force out of your wisdom and compassion not out of anger. And it would be interesting to explore when you get to that place is, does that power from wisdom and compassion feel different than anger? It may have the same kind of sensation in our body. And then this tradition says, right, that's wrath. Right? Wrath is this powerful force that comes out. That's born of wisdom and compassion in the face of violence, let's say, right? Potential violence or potential danger. Maybe that's better, potential danger, either towards ourselves or involving other people. Mahayana Buddhism says there's no such thing as a moment of anger that can bring a good result. So to call something righteous anger and hope for a good result out of it is mistaken. The only negative state of mind that is a virtue is regret. We've heard that before. Negative state of mind is in the sense that it's unpleasant, right? It's unpleasant to recognize, oh, I did that thing that hurt somebody, that will hurt me in the future. I regret it. And yet that unpleasant sensation is in fact a great goodness, right? That will bring about a pleasant result in the future. All right, let's take a break. Oh, there's Niemes to that one. Can I finish this one? Give me a few more minutes, please. Here are the exceptions. Thank goodness for these. So we protect this vow simply by trying to counter our anger with something kinder. Just trying. Even if we fail and we end up, doing whatever it was our anger wanted us to do, whatever moments of effort to control it protects this vow. Thank goodness, right? Then having some regret or shame or embarrassment about our reaction also protects the vow. So it doesn't mean, okay, just let fly and regret it. Or I'm in this situation, I'm struggling, now I'm going to blast forth, right? It means sincerely trying and sincerely regretting that I wasn't able to change. And both of those situations protects this secondary vow. So we could be in a situation, we make our struggle, we fail and let fly with our usual response, we regret it very swiftly afterwards. We have still gathered the goodness of keeping this secondary vow, which means next time around, we'll have a little more goodness than we had that last time. And it'll be a little easier to apply our counter effort and or to be more swiftly regretful. Do you see how they add to each other? Geshe-la said the only way to stop our anger entirely is to experience emptiness directly. It doesn't end your anger entirely in that moment, but that's necessary to fully stop the cycle. It's what gives us the tools that we need to stop perpetuating that cycle of anger. Until then, we try. And our efforts to try move us towards the reaching emptiness directly. Okay, now let's take a break. So vows 21, 22, and 23 are behaviors that help us with our perfection of joyous effort. Joyous effort, as you recall, is having a fun, doing our practices of giving, moral discipline, not getting angry, meditating, and growing our wisdom. So vow 21 says, I will avoid collecting students out of attachment to gain or admiration. So if your livelihood depended upon having students that made offerings to you, or if your sponsorship depended upon how many students you had, it would be very hard to gather those students together physically for a teaching, or hard not to want to attract more students so that the sponsor will support you better, or so that your more students means more offering. So this vow is saying, we damage our perfection of joyous effort if our motivation in gathering more students or gathering the students we have together is out of this personal gain for either how they treat us physically or for the feeling of their admiration. It is pleasant to be treated kindly, to be looked after, to be admired. And if that's the reason we gather our students and gather more students, we're damaging this vow. And we're damaging our practice of the perfection of joyous effort. Interesting. So Geshe-la said a good sign that we might have this would be if you have jealousy towards another teacher that has more students than you, or seems to be treated better by their students than you seem to see yourself treated by students, right? Jealousy would say that you have some underlying personal gain factor in your wanting to get more students. He said, on the other hand, if your students are good to you and take care of you sweetly, but that's not why you gather them together, and that's not why you would want new students, then you don't break this vow, right? Experiencing the result of having treated teachers well is not breaking this vow. It's gathering students in order to have those results. Number 22 is I will avoid not trying to stop laziness, etc. So Geshe called laziness habitual wasting time, allowing ourselves to not make efforts for no particular reason. And it's like laziness is, I just don't feel like it, so I'm not going to do it. Whether it's doing the dishes or taking the dog out or whatever, right? It's like, I don't feel like it, you can't make me kind of attitude. This vow does not mean that you can never take time to rest and relax. It means don't become lethargic. Relax, rest and recover, and then get going again. And again, you are the judge of whether you are getting lazy or not. There are exceptions, of course. If you're sick, you rest until you get better. If you are traveling, right? Now you can be doing kindnesses while you're traveling, but you can't be doing your usual things that you do in your usual life while you're traveling. And then if you have just traveled, or you've worked really hard on a project and you're just tired, you need to rest. So it's not like you've just flown halfway across the world and you get off the plane and you go right to your next bodhisattva activity. You rest. It doesn't mean you're not being bodhisattva while you rest. But you get the idea, right? We are allowed to rest and relax, have some fun. Watch a movie, but don't watch 6 in a row. Or don't watch 2 in a row. Whatever you consider to be giving into, I just don't want to do whatever is supposed to come next. All right, the third one, 23. I will avoid engaging in frivolous talk out of desire, meaning out of enjoyment of it. So this one is some kind of enjoyment that when we partake of it actually blocks our ability to practice our perfection of joyous effort. It seems a little bit odd, right? You would think it would say, enjoy those things that you enjoy, and that would increase our perfection of joyous effort. But not if the things we are enjoying are things that are perpetuating uselessness, which is what this one's talking about. So the more we enjoy useless talk, the more useless stuff comes to us. And when we engage in useless stuff, it's useless. Okay? It's not going to help our upward spiritual spiral. And so frivolous talk, it's kind of hard to define because any talk could be frivolous or meaningful, depending on the circumstance. But as a general rule, gossip, just blah, blah, blah. Geshe said sex, politics, crime, movie, music, right? Just the stuff that most of us talk about when we're in a group of, ordinary us. And it includes what we read, right? Newspapers, magazines, TV is what he's called it before. This was from the 1990s. Now it's like, right, different words for the same stuff. the scrolling, the social media, etc. He says, read what you need. Like, hear whatever news program you need to be able to be alert, aware of what's going on in the world. But then put it down. You know, how much is enough? Only you can decide how much is enough. Out of habit, we are attracted to useless information, useless topics that reinforce the belief in the self-nature of things and others, that reinforce the belief that there's something we can do in our outer world that will bring an immediate next result that we want. The reason they bring this up is that we don't have time to spend on things like that. We don't have time to spend on things that won't help our spiritual progress. Now, technically, everything could help our spiritual progress, and everything could hinder it. It's our state of mind with which we engage it. When we're newer on the path, those things that look like in them, from them, are things that would hold my spiritual path back, are the things to avoid. And the things that appear to be helpful to my spiritual path would be the things to cultivate. Right? Eventually, we reach the level where we're working with everything as our spiritual path. These vows are about getting to sufficient goodness that we can get to the place where we can use everything as our spiritual path. The kind of talk or information input that we would want to focus upon is information that would help us help and serve others better. And we could go on to say that the reason I'm reading anything or conversing in any way with anyone is to be able to help and serve them better. And that state of mind would help us protect this vow, grow this vowed behavior. Geshe-la says even gossip about Dharma centers, casual conversation about the Dharma is still babble. So we can't protect ourselves so much by, oh, I only talk to other people about the mixed nuts translations, right? If I'm not careful about what I say, right? Okay. There are exceptions to this. One of them is if we are fully mindful about our speech and we are aware that our frivolous speech is necessary to complete our work or to put others at ease, and you're ready to cut it off at any moment, then you don't break the vow in those moments that you are frivolously talking. Another one is if you are in such a conversation and you're looking for an opportunity to turn it to a more meaningful topic of conversation, you protect the vow because you're ready to switch at any moment, even if you never get a chance. And then third one, if you need to get the information that you're getting from this conversation that you perceive as frivolous? Right? There is a certain amount of information that we need to know. Okay. Again, Geshe-la says, our window of opportunity for studying, practicing, meditating is so brief. We don't see it until you get to my age and more. And it starts to be a little bit scary. You know, when you really see that there is an end in sight, you know, just because of age. That was the purpose of doing our death meditation practices, is to see that you don't have to get to be 70, 80 years old before you realize, oh my gosh, at max, I've got 20 years. No, at max, we've got 4 minutes, any one of us. And we just like get so used to it because that 4 minutes passed and it hasn't happened yet, that we get so complacent until you, like, I look back now at my last 25 years, and it was all the time frame in which I gave up my life in Tucson and was at Diamond Mountain, and then into the Great Retreat, and then into teaching mode. And that 25 years just seems so short to me now. And when I look forward, right, I'm 70, 25 years is 95. Like, that seems really short to me, even though 95 seems really old compared to where I am now. The same 25 years. It's like, oh man, right? So I'm sharing that with you because you're looking forward to your life from where you are. And it seems so long to 95 that our subconscious says, I've got time. And I'm telling you, we don't. None of us. And so, right, the time we spend complacent, at some point, we'll go, man, I wish I hadn't done that. But then there are all of us overachievers that go, you know, I can't ever do it well enough. I'm always going to fail, right? That was me too. So find that balance. Trying is the key, not succeeding. Trying is the key. Right? I'm trying to change my behavior. I'm trying to have this different attitude. I'm trying. The trying plants seeds, and those seeds grow. And the trying gets easier. It gets bigger. Right? It'll still be trying. I'm still trying. But it's a whole lot different now than it was when I first started in the early 90s. So give yourself a break, but don't, check for the complacency. And that's what these vows are talking about. All right. Vows 24, 25, 26 are vows that help us grow our perfection of concentration. So concentration usually means meditation on the cushion. Meditation on the cushion has a relationship with mindfulness off the cushion. Our mindfulness off the cushion helps us choose our behaviors such that they grow our goodness, the ripening of which deepens our meditation. And as our meditation deepens, our mindfulness gets stronger and our outer practice gets stronger. And all of that is leading towards a deep enough meditation that when we turn our mind to the true nature of the object of meditation, we can hold it precisely enough to penetrate to its truth, to its direct perception. So these vows are helping our behavior guidelines such that our on-cushion concentration can go deeper. And they are things that we do both on and off the cushion so that our meditative concentration can go deeper. Do you see the connection? So number 24 says, I will avoid failing to seek the meaning of single-pointed concentration. I will avoid failing to seek the meaning of single-pointed concentration. It says, the commentary says what that means is, I will avoid failing to learn more about meditation when the opportunity arises. If we know a teaching on single-pointed concentration is happening and you don't go to learn more about it, wrongly motivated, we damage this vow. Wrongly motivated would mean out of pride, disrespect for the teacher, jealousy, or just plain laziness. There are exceptions. If you're too sick and you can't go to the teaching, if you have the suspicion that they're not teaching it correctly, or if you have already mastered single-pointed concentration, you don't have to go learn more about it. You know, now in the olden days, teachings were given in person and you had to get there and you had to hear about them. Now there's so much available and online that it's like, gads, you know, maybe I don't want to hear about them because then I don't break my vow about not going. We can't do everything, right? We have other commitments, other obligations. We are allowed to keep our priorities straight. When we do have an opportunity and we just go, nah, I'm not going to do it, or I don't need that, or they can't teach me anything, right? The seeds that we're planting not just affect getting more teachings, but they affect our ability to concentrate, right? That's what this is pointing out. Geshe-la adds, if the teaching is in a different lineage, you don't have to go. You don't break the vow by not going when it's a different lineage, right? You're welcome to go to a different lineage, but you don't break the vow by not. That was 24. 25, I will avoid failing to remove the obstacles to meditation. Let me see what it says here. Yeah, the vow number 25 is avoiding failing to remove the obstacles to meditation. But then the commentary clarifies those obstacles. And then, right, as Geshe-la is listing these vows for us for our book, he breaks out all the ones that has parts. So, you know, in the little vow book, this is actually vow number 89, not 23, but it is, 25. So in our meditation course, we learned about obstacles to meditation and we learned their antidotes. And there were what was it? 5 obstacles and 8 corrections, or these are a little bit different. They're not not included in that other teaching. But Arya Nagarjuna points out 5 specific things that block our deepening concentration, both while we're on the cushion and off the cushion. Same 5, but experienced in a different way. So these are restless desire or missing someone or something. So the vow would say, I will avoid failing to work against the meditation obstacle of restless desire and missing something or someone. So on our cushion, restless desire means your mind's, your body's sitting there in meditation. You're trying to get onto your object, but your mind's going, I want oatmeal for breakfast. I want my meeting to go really well. What's that car that just went by? I'd like to see what it was, right? All these I wants popping up. Or your mind goes into the missing somebody. Oh, woe is me, my breakup with my partner, I miss them so much. And then the mind goes off on that track. Or something that you don't have that you want, or that you had that you don't have anymore, that missing something. Now, it's like, really? Somebody's mind gets lost on that in a meditation session? No doubt it does. But off cushion time, these 2 states of mind affect our mind on our cushion time. So if off our cushion time, our mind's, doing this wild thing about its wants and desires, or it's wallowing in this missing somebody or something, those seeds being planted, that agitation, that distress is planting seeds such that even when we try to meditate, our mind won't concentrate. It won't necessarily be thinking about those same things, but the seeds from all of that uncontrolled movement of mind will influence the mind on the cushion to be an uncontrolled state of mind. So, restless flipping around of our mind. The next one is I will avoid failing to work against the meditation obstacle of malice towards another. Malice means they did something that hurt you and you're still upset about it, and you're holding that upset, and some part of you is like thinking how to get them back. Maybe not grossly, obviously, but malice is like an ill will, an underlying likelihood to hurt them given the opportunity because they hurt me. Really antithesis of bodhisattva, of course, but very human nature. So, don't feel bad if you find it inside there. It might be experienced as irritation, hatred, jealousy, just this constant criticism of them. Yeah, putting them down. When those thoughts are going through our mind off cushion, they influence our ability to get to that stillness on cushion. They themselves may not be the thing that's keeping us off our object, but because we let them go on all day long, the mind's not going to quit, agitating just because now we're sitting on a meditation cushion. So these vows are designed for, yes, on the cushion, we make the corrections rather than just sit there on your cushion for your 20 minutes and let your mind blah, 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 blah. I'm guilty of that, I have to admit, some days. But off cushion time, probably more important because there's more of it. To grow that mindfulness that catches and corrects these states of mind. Malice. Third one is, I will avoid failing to work against the meditation obstacles of drowsiness and mental dullness. Drowsiness and mental dullness happen on cushion time when we haven't gotten enough sleep, when we've overeaten right before meditating. If we've eaten the wrong things, right, just before, even if we haven't wrongly eaten or too much eaten, there are different factors that you will find for yourself that either add to or subtract from your ability to have a good meditation. The state of mind we're learning to cultivate is, in the English phrase, it's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I don't know where that came from, but like the little squirrel, right? The squirrel's in the tree. A sound comes, they go, whoop, and their tail comes up and it bristles out, and their little eyes are like this big. What's going on here? That state of mind is the state of mind we want in meditation. Fixation, clarity, intensity. Some of us spent 10 days working on that recently. Off cushion, we get the same states of mind from the same reasons. We overeat. We don't get enough sleep. We overwork. We keep watching that stupid movie that just makes us, dumb, dull, and stupid instead of just shutting it off. Right? So off cushion time, paying attention to our dumb, stupid, drowsy states of mind and do something about it. Get more sleep. Find the foods that don't leave you feeling like that. When you're getting like that, cut it off. Either go to bed or splash water on your face, something, right? To get bright again. Not because it hurts you in the moment, but because it's going to influence our meditative concentration. It's like hard to make that connection. Next one, I will avoid failing to work against the meditation obstacle of attraction to the objects of the senses. So this is different than the letting the desire go on. This is the attraction to simply the sounds, the smells, the sensations. I don't know that taste interferes with our meditation, because I don't know, but if it does, the sensory input that happens during our meditation time is very distracting, isn't it? Right? You're going inward, you're trying to focus on your object of meditation, and then the neighbor's car horn goes off. And by the time you, right, it's your mind's already gone off there. By the time you realize that you've gone off there, it's already gone. That's how our senses work. We are learning to get to a meditative platform to where our senses are still functioning, but our awareness of them is shut off. It's like so turned away that the neighbor's car horn could blare through the whole meditation and we wouldn't know it. Hard to even imagine. So what keeps us from reaching that state is continuing to be attracted to those things. So the car horn goes off, we hear it, and attraction to it means our mind goes, what's wrong, right? What's wrong with my neighbor? Or why is she laying on the horn, right? We have the thoughts about it going on is our attraction to the objects, as opposed to like, back. That is still the sensations happening, but it isn't the attraction to them. The attraction means you want to know about it. You want to do something about it, as opposed to, nope, come back. Nope, come back. All right, we're learning how to do that in Mahamudra. Off cushion time, we do the same thing. I mean, I've noticed myself doing it. David and I will be having a conversation. We're walking along the street and there's a beautiful bird in the tree. And it's like, look at the bird, right? It's like, it's kind to point out a beautiful thing, but I've interrupted him. I've distracted his mind, and I've distracted my mind from listening to our conversation. And then it's no wonder that when I'm trying to get my mind to sit on its object, the mind itself is going, look at that. Look at this, right? Interrupting itself. Because, right, I pointed out something intending for it to be, you know, a beautiful, nice experience, but inadvertently did not contribute to the power of meditation. And then even when we're all by ourselves, right, we are supposed to scan, right, keep the scan going on to check for safety. We're not saying don't do that, but all the different things that we take in, our mind is, oh, what about that? You know, not just safe, not safe, safe, not safe. We're going, oh, look how pretty that. Oh, what about that? What about this? You know, our mind is doing it constantly. And we go, yeah, that's what it is to be human. It's all pleasurable. It's all great. Yeah, if you want to perpetuate samsara, right? Just go on ahead. Point out just all the beautiful things to yourself and you perpetuate a samsara that's maybe beautiful, but still, right? It's going to bite us in the fanny eventually. So off cushion time, same. The last one, I will avoid failing to work against the meditation obstacle of unresolved doubts. Unresolved doubts means some aspect of our practice that we have doubt about, and we let that doubt go on rather than making the effort to apply our correct reasoning or scriptural authority to show ourselves where the doubt was showing us our misunderstanding, right? It's good to have doubt. We should have doubt about teachings that we receive. Meaning, don't just accept them because Buddha said so. We've heard that. We learn to apply reasoning, to check it against our own experience, right? Remember all that. And here it's saying, right, do all that. And to not do all that and let a doubt go on means this vow of failing to, what does it say? Failing to work against the meditation obstacle of unresolved doubt. Geshe-la suggested that the reason we do that is because some part of us knows that when we prove to ourselves the truth of the teaching that we're doubting, it means we're going to have to change in some way. And some part of us is not ready to do that, right? Not willing, doesn't want to, right? It's the stubborn 2-year-old. You can't make me do that. And so as a result, we avoid showing ourselves the necessity to make that change. He said, especially determining the truth of karma, determining the importance of vows, tracking our behavior, the importance of study, contemplation, and meditation, the importance of service, right? All of those things that connect together to show us how this process of our interaction with others creates the causes that becomes the results that is our experiences. Right? Samadhi likes to say our present is our past. How does he say that? And then our past is our, how does that go? Our present is our future and our now is our past, or I can't remember now. But to get that connection between our behavior and our experience. Okay. Right. So clearing obstacles to meditation is different than creating causes for good meditation. And he suggested that thinking of the benefits of meditation and rejoicing in others' accomplishment at meditation and its results would be ways to gather the causes for a good meditation. And then clearing out these other behaviors, trying to, will help us remove the obstacles to those causes ripening into the result. And interestingly, those meditation preliminaries that we're taught to do, they have built into them the opportunity to gather the goodness of admiring the teacher, making offerings, purifying our obstacles, and gathering the goodness of rejoicing in the goodness of others, and then even dedicating, right? Asking the teacher to stay and teach and dedicating. So our meditation preliminaries are built in methods of growing the goodness that will ripen as deepening meditation, not on the day that you do the meditation preliminaries, but they accumulate over time. And so do them. You can even do them as your meditation, as you're learning about them. All right. So we don't break the vow as long as we are trying to stop these obstacles. Just trying. And you're the only one who knows whether you're trying or not. Right? And just a little bit of try is enough to protect the vow. And then the vow adds to our goodness and it gets easier to try more. Trying is enough. All right, number 26 is I will avoid considering the pleasant feeling of meditation as an important personal attainment. So as our meditation gets better and better, it gets more and more pleasurable. And it's tempting to reach a level of meditation that's very pleasurable and then say, good, I'm there, that's enough. And that's not what meditation is for, to reach that pleasant sensation. That pleasant sensation is what helps us stay at that platform of meditative concentration as we turn our mind to the true nature, the empty nature of the object. And if we are attracted to the pleasure, we don't want to turn our mind onto the true nature of the object. We want to focus on the pleasure. So it becomes an obstacle. The pleasure becomes an obstacle. Not that we avoid having it, but we note that when we reach it and we stay focused on it, then it becomes an obstacle. So we have this vow to not do that, right? To not stay at that level where the pleasure has come about. I can't finish class, so you can't do all your homework. Gee, too bad. But do what you can, please. Don't send it in. I will finish class, and I don't know what I'll do. We'll get it done. We'll get it all done, not to worry. Wonder why that happened. But I don't want to rush and try to finish in the next 2 minutes, because we're talking about the vows that obstruct our perfection of wisdom, and that's pretty important. Right, so let's stop here and we'll do our dedication. I'm marking my page so I don't forget. Remember all those minutes I've got in the bank? I'm going to need to use them one of these days, but we'll see how it goes. So remember that person that we wanted to be able to help. We've learned a lot that we will use to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's an extraordinary goodness. So please be happy with yourself. Be happy just for trying. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then we offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom may. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom, and may it be so. Okay. Thanks very much, everyone. I'm stopping recording. Stop recording. There. Right, yeah.